So yeah, basically this weekend UFC 296 is taking place and I'm gonna give you my predictions for the main card. The main card starts off with Vicente Luque against Ian Gary and it makes me very sad to say this, but I think Ian Gary is gonna take this one, guys. Makes me very sad, because he isn't very likable. Ian Gary is a lot faster than Vicente Luque. He has faster boxing, faster combinations. And I also think a very underrated aspect about his game is his kicks. They worked very well in his last fight with Neil Magny. Sometimes he doesn't tuck his shin, and he's very hittable. And he also doesn't move his head a whole lot. And sometimes even throws punches from his hips, which is very risky against someone like Luque. And Ian Gary got exposed for this in his debut fight against Kanan Song, and this definitely means that Luque could do the same to him, drop him in that first round. Luque also has surprisingly a longer reach by 1 inch, which makes this fight a little more even, but I still feel like Ian Gary is gonna use his speed and kicks a lot to beat up Luque, and Luque isn't the same fighter he once was, before he was really good, but he kind of got his shin cracked, and I really don't want Ian Gary to win because he's been very unlikable. His relationship is very interesting to say the least, but unfortunately, I have to go with Ian Gary on this one, guys. So, the next fight on the card is Paddy Pimblett versus Tony Ferguson. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this is actually one of the hardest fights to predict on this main card. Because Paddy sucks and Tony has been on a steady decline recently. And the Paddy's last fight was also a year ago, which actually is quite a long time. And it was honestly also a terrible performance by him. Like, he should have lost that fight. And Tony got beat up pretty badly in his last fight too. Got submitted in the final round against Bobby Green. And Paddy can't strike either. He always puts his shin up in the air when he's throwing punches, which is very risky. And I think Tony still has some power left, so that can certainly be a danger factor for Paddy. But personally, if anything, I think Paddy is gonna be better than he was in his last fight, and Tony is probably gonna be worse than he was in his last fight. So this ain't looking too good for Tony. I never thought I would say this, but I think Paddy might beat him. I think he's probably gonna beat him, unfortunately. And I really hope that training with David Goggins comes in clutch for Tony. I hope so, because honestly, I don't even like Paddy Pimblett, bro. He has a silly haircut. The next fight on the card is Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And this is a fight I'm very excited for. Shavkat's fights have all been bangers, especially his last one against Jeff Neal. And Wonderboy isn't a slouch either. Most of his fights are all very good. He's a very skilled striker. His last fight against Kevin Holland was very good. Shavkat have been on a tear lately, so it's just very hard for me to imagine Wonderboy winning this one. Shavkat's pressure is just different, man. I think he's gonna walk down Wonderboy, put him against the cage, and do most of his work there. I can see him taking Wonderboy down a couple times too and landing some big shots down there. I do think Wonderboy still poses a risk on the feet though. Sometimes Shavkat is easy to hit, sometimes his shin is up in the air, but Shavkat was just able to eat all those shots from Jeff Neal, so it does take a lot to knock him out, and that's very good for him. Wonderboy is also getting up there in age, so I just see Shavkat steamrolling him this fight, to be honest. Like, I like Wonderboy, I honestly want him to win this one, but he's just too old, man. So, the co-main event. Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. This is a fight I'm very excited for, actually. Alexander Pantoja, I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name, had a good last performance against a very high level opponent in Brandon Moreno, and regardless, of who you think won that, you have to admit that was a great performance against the top guy in the division, you know? Pantoja also has a crazy shin. He took a lot of mean shots in that fight against Moreno, you know? And it kind of surprised me. Overall, Pantoja has both good striking and good grappling. He's very well rounded, you know. If he could he could grapple around with Moreno, and even in that first fight against Royval, he was able to grapple against him, you know. The first fight, Pantoja was actually messing up Royval bad in the striking, even if he beat him by submission. Like, he was putting it on, and like Royval, he was like landing shots because he throws a lot of punches, but like the bigger shots were landed by Pantoja in that fight, 100%. And I just see Pantoja beating him up, frankly, in the striking again. However, the fact that this is a 5-round fight does maybe favor Royval because he has a very high pace, a very high volume, and yeah. But yeah, the prediction for this fight is I'm gonna have to give it to Pantoja, man. So, it's finally time for the main event. Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards, man. And this is a fight I'm very excited for. I'm very excited for the press conference, you know. Colby has been inactive for over 1 year, so I think it's kind of hard to predict this fight, but I don't really think he's gonna become any better in that time. He's also been getting up there in age. He's 35 now. And, I mean, 35 isn't too old for a welterweight, but Edwards is 32, so I would say Edwards is more in his physical prime, you know? Yeah, I think Leon is gonna win this fight, probably by outpointing him. I also think the leg kicks are definitely gonna be a big part in his victory. Colby stands pretty heavy on his lead leg too, which makes it a lot more kickable, you know? It's easier to hit a heavy leg, you know? And if you look at that fight Colby had with Masvidal, even though he destroyed Masvidal in that fight, the times where they were standing up, especially in the first and second round, Masvidal was landing a lot of leg kicks in the stand-up moments, and they were good leg kicks too. They hit him pretty hard. Edwards, you know, he in his last fight against Usman, he slickly outpointed him pretty easy. I thought he almost won every single round except like the one where he got a point deducted. Usman and Colby, they might seem like similar fighters, but both are because both are very pressure based. However, their pressure is a bit different from each other's. Usman's pressure is based on his takedown and his power punch ability, while Colby's pressure is based on his takedowns and his insane volume and pace. Colby has basically nothing to offer Edwards on the feet though. With Usman, Edwards had to at least worry about the power, you know? But because Colby has, no disrespect Colby, but you have pillow hands, bro. There's not much to worry about on the feet, like for Edwards. And it will be very interesting to see how Edwards react to this, because Edwards liked to move backwards a lot, and I could see Colby putting him up against the fence sometimes, you know? But in the end, I do believe Edwards will be able to defend a lot of takedowns too, seeing how he was able to defend a lot of Usman's. So I gotta give this one to the king of aesthetics himself, you know? I'm really excited for this fight. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you later.